Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the love within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the joy within.
You are welcome here. No matter your age, your size, the color of your eyes, your hair, your skin, you are welcome here. No matter your gender, whom you love, how you speak, or whatever your abilities, you are welcome here. You are welcome here, whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears. You are welcome here. No matter what you've experienced in the past or what awaits in the future, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God all of the time, none of the time, or some of the time, you are welcome here. This is a community of open hearts, loving minds, and open minds, and willing hands. You are welcome here. As we gather this morning, let us pause and acknowledge that the ground upon which we gather is the ancestral and current home of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. With humility for the ways in which we have unwittingly participated in the harms perpetuated in the past and in the present, we seek now to learn a new way forward. We begin to partner, to ally, and to witness with our Indigenous siblings and friends, and bring forth a new sacred dream of a community restored to fullness and a world healed to greater wholeness. Good morning, I'm Brenda Voisard. My pronouns are she and her. Welcome to being here this morning, our last time in the sanctuary for a while, because we're gonna go have summer in the park. Yeah. We have people online. Welcome to all of you. We are especially glad for anyone who just found us or has come back for just the second time, third time. Glad you keep coming back. All right, yeah. Let's have a moment to say good morning to each other. You can get up, you can say hello, welcome one another here.
As we resettle into this place that we have made sacred by our shared connection with one another. Let us light our chalice, the symbol of our faith and the light of our commitments to love and justice. As we do so, receive these words of invocation. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, as if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language. Don't search for the answers, which could not be given to you now because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. To live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, someday far in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. That's by German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. So as our chalice is lit, I invite you to stand in body, mind, or spirit as we say our chalice lighting words. And you can use your actions if you wish Those at home are invited to put the name of their street and say, "Chalice is lit," and participate in that ritual virtually in community. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and the energy of action. You may be seated. And it is our first Sunday in June that we are gathered in the sanctuary, so that means it is birthday blessing week. Woo! So if you have a birthday in June, please join me at the front. Excellent. All right. All right, you can stand up or you can sit down. Would you like to be the sticker holder also, Brindley? Okay. So, welcome, welcome. All right, so I'm going to invite you to each share your name, the day of your birth, and if you'd like to also add how old you are, you may do so, but that is not required.
I'm Brenda Julander. I'm a Gemini.
So am I.
June 13th is my birthday, and I will be 52.
I'm John Allen, and on the 8th, I turned 39.
I'm David Vickery. My birthday is on June 24th. I'm David Vickery, and my birthday is on June 24th.
I'm Ellen Payson. My birthday's June 26th, and I'll be 82.
And great. And Brindley, would you like to have the microphone and tell us how old you are going to be?
My name is Brindley Stevens. My birthday is on June 25th, and I'm turning 7.
7. Okay, so Brindley, will you please take your sticker of choice and then give all of these fine people a sticker as well? Oh, good, you took the big one. Excellent. Okay, so may this year be one filled with glorious and fruitful inquiry, wild curiosity, and joyful exploration, such that when you exit this trip around the sun that you are now beginning afresh and anew, you'll be wiser, stronger, and perhaps a little sillier at the end. Birthday blessings to each of you. Thank you. for all we have received and all we have found the courage to give. May we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and to Green Phoenix Farm. I'd like to invite my readers to come forward at this time. This is a cento, a mashup of words and phrases from various sources, intended for the road to liberation. Alone, you can fight. You can refuse. You can take refuge. You can take revenge. You can roll, but they roll over you.
If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. Progress is healing the wound that the blow made, and they haven't even pulled the knife out, much less heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there. Malcolm X.
But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex.
It was like a gaslighting of America, of Black Americans. To me, I keep waking up to a racial injustice Groundhog Day. You keep seeing that same pattern. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a loop. I wish I knew when I was 18 that activism isn't always going to result in immediate victories. In fact, you may have to go through long stretches of defeat before you get to victories. I wish someone had told me that you can keep the faith through those hard times, especially if you are not just dependent on victories to give meaning to your activism. I think that's what made it easier for me to get through some of those years. Some of those years I really did become dispirited and almost lost my way because defeat after defeat after defeat. So that's what I wish someone would have told me back then. Jody Armour.
3 people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With 4, you can play bridge and start an organization. With 6, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party.
Hopefully, most of us get to a place where we begin to know that the process of unlearning racism is both painful and joyful. For me, when I began to understand how deeply and insidiously society had programmed my brain to not see or understand things that were happening all around me, the more motivated I became to stay in it, to stay with the discomfort, to seek out the painful learning edge, and then slowly the joy of new relationships and new ways of existing in this world became apparent too. It always is and always will be a mixture of rage and beauty, joy and shame, sadness and emergence, and much more. Tiffany Wilhelm.
A dozen make a demonstration, 100 fill a hall, 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter, 10,000 power and your own paper, 100,000 your own media, 10 million your own country.
There are times when personal experience keeps us from reaching the mountaintop, and so we let go because the weight of it is too heavy. And sometimes the mountaintop is difficult to reach with all our resources, factual and confessional. So we are just there, collectively grasping, filling the limitations of knowledge, longing together, yearning for a way to reach that highest point. Even this yearning is a way to know. Bell Hooks.
It goes on one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again, and they said no. It starts when you say we, and you know who you mean, and each day you mean one more.
Pain and shame are neither desirable nor sustainable as long-term strategies for transformational change. It is my hope that love is what initially brought you to this work. It is my conviction that love is what will keep you going. Layla F. Saad.
And so it goes, and may it so go, in love, in love, in love, toward that beloved community emergent in us here and now, unfolding as it may, as it can, as it shall. All souls, seen, heard, known, and finally blessed again, once again, as already whole. And so ends our reading. I'll just note with a 10 a.m. start time that the sun is less bad on the pulpit. So that's a relief for me. So we've been on a journey now for some time. Some would say we've been on this journey for several millennia. Some would say for several hundred years. And I'm going to bring us down to the journey of this congregation in these last few months and years. We've been reading and reflecting and analyzing and discerning and practicing and repracticing and learning together. What does it mean to be an anti-racist congregation? This is always and will remain a complex undertaking. For starters, we all enter into this conversation with different perspectives and lived experiences. So we do not have the same language when we enter into that conversation. And even when we think we do have the same language to describe it, the language itself keeps evolving in response to our desire to help heal new harms, to heal wounds, and become the kind of nation, the kind of congregation that we know is possible. It's also very difficult to see culture in and of itself. And when I say this, I mean that white supremacy culture that we hear referred to in social media and in news and in academic sources. It's very hard to see something that is automatically programmed into us. And if you add this, the detrimental forces determined to limit, undermine, and undo racial progress, and the ways in which social media and our news cycle amplify misinformation, and you can find yourself swimming in some very choppy waters. But despite these challenges and these differences, we are in agreement as a faith community, as a religious movement, that we must continue to participate in bringing about positive change. Our congregations have long advocated for inclusive community and been active in bringing about positive change. We were the first denomination to ordain women and then to welcome them back into ministry after a 60 or 70-year gap in which we stopped having them participate. We have been active in advocating for housing, in equitable housing for Black and brown folks. We're active through our Side with Love campaigns in ensuring that everyone knows what their voting rights are and how to use them. And we've been active to ensure that our trans and non-binary folks have access to a full range of healthcare. Our congregations know that it is up to us to be the change makers in society. And we are willing to undertake that work in joy and in solidarity. So our endeavor in this season in the congregation is figuring out, how can we be that place? How can this be the place where Black and brown folks who agree with our philosophies and our religious leanings, how can this be a place for them and for us to be welcome? Not in that general and broad sense of everybody's welcome, don't they know that? But be specifically and really welcome, able to move from guest and visitor, to friend and member and leader, as seamlessly as their white counterparts. So we are taking some time in this season of the congregation to examine how perhaps our assumptions and our expectations and our practices of welcome might be working against that dream. At our annual meeting this year, we decided to put ourselves into a time of discernment around whether or not and how and what it will mean when we post a Black Lives Matter sign on the exterior of our building. Also to adopt the 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism, which calls us to actively heal racial trauma and build beloved and inclusive community. These real and specific commitments have been requested and affirmed by our BIPOC members and friends, and you have wholeheartedly raised your hand in support that yes, we will endeavor to walk this path with authenticity and with joy. This morning, we're going to be talking a little bit about what is the other side of microaggressions. We've been talking about microaggressions with our anti-racism team, providing information and education through our newsletter and our listserv for the last few months. We've been talking about those little ways in which we cut each other down unwittingly. Today, we're going to add to that toolkit. What is a micro-affirmation? How do we build each other up specifically in joy? How do we build each other up? This is a choice that we make across all levels of leadership in our congregation. As your called and settled minister, it is my responsibility to listen, to reflect, and to invite the congregation to participate in what we believe will call us all to a greater wholeness. And your board of directors, elected by you each year, works together with me and engages in that to discern, to direct, to measure, and to hold accountable the entirety of our congregation in that work. And our anti-racism task force, they're the people on the ground willing to undertake the hard work of individual conversations and to remind us that joy is a part of this conversation. And together we will do this and are doing it in accordance with our values of love and justice, our 8 principles, our mission, our vision, and our covenant, our agreements with one another about how we will interact with each other with joy, with compassion, with benefit of the doubt, and with an opportunity for growth. In a world that is often overly stressed and exhausted, overwhelmed even by preventable suffering and the toxicity that has become so rampantly amplified through social media, this place, this community can make a different choice. We can embrace joy and compassion, reflexivity, curiosity, and connection as our core spiritual principles. And by that, we can begin to bring about the change that we know is possible on an individual, conversation by conversation, friendship by friendship basis. So this morning, I'm keeping my personal remarks very short to make space for one of our members to come forward, Naomi, and to share with us what micro-affirmations are and what they can unleash in us. And then we'll do a ritual together to participate in identifying what those are. And my hope is that you will take this step, even if it's tentatively today, that you will trust that that bridge of hope will bring you to a land of joy. And may that be so. I'd like to invite Naomi to come forward and share with us a little bit more. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Reverend Lora, and it's nice to be with everyone today. I'm Naomi Lane. My pronouns are she and her, and if we haven't yet, attending South Valley for about the last year with my 15-year-old twins, Ethan and Liana. And we're originally from San Diego, but we've been in Utah 4 years next month. I'm a first-generation Mexican-American, and I've been a professional diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner for the last almost 10 years. So I'm grateful to be invited today to share with you a little bit more in terms of thoughts on inclusion and allyship, and exploring more about this topic of intentional action at the individual level and joyfulness as it relates to anti-racism. Reverend Lora referred to microaggressions. They're familiar to all of us, I think, at this point. Those small, unintentional, often actions that can send a message that someone is an outsider or make someone feel not included, not seen for who they truly are. And I'm certain that each and every one of us has, at some point or other, been in a place where we've observed or experienced a moment where a microaggression has happened and it passed without our immediate notice. Maybe we realized it upon reflection. Or perhaps we realized it, we felt the discomfort in that moment, but we didn't have a prepared response. So we said nothing in order to not make it worse. I've been there. Everyone has. And today I'm here to share a practical practice of allyship and anti-racism that can help us be prepared for those moments at the individual level when those moments occur. So by reflecting on our desired goals more specifically, we can each take steps to help us individually be prepared for those moments and be able to activate what is our intention to be an ally, to be anti-racist. Now, sometimes, and I want to acknowledge this before getting into too much more detail, sometimes when these conversations happen, we can feel a sense of discomfort. There's a little bit of tension associated with sometimes those feelings of what am I supposed to say, or I'm not sure how to handle this or navigate the scenario. And that's normal. I experience those feelings too, and I've been doing this work for a decade. So take this as permission to feel whatever way you feel, and to see that with curiosity rather than judgment. And if you experience any discomfort or other whatever feelings it might be, that's a signpost. See it as an invitation to be curious and to explore what that might mean for you and what that's coming from inside. Guilt has no place in joyful anti-racism. We're looking not to the past, but to the future and to what we can do in that future. When my children were very young, around maybe 3 years old, Ethan said to Liana with this horrified expression of a tiny human uncovering an unsettling reality, "Liana, did you know? The future is a bunch of days that haven't happened yet. Isn't that creepy?" I think we can identify with that unsettled feeling of what is the future, even as adults. They can be an unsettled feeling of the unknown in front of us. And so while the future is unknown, it is also by that same token a place with opportunity and possibility and, yes, justice, built by our own actions that we take today in the present. While it's crucial to be on guard against microaggressions, solely focusing on what not to do can sometimes put us in an overly defensive posture as we think about this work. The science of behavioral change tells us that it's often easier to take positive action than to stop negative behaviors or to avoid
trying to engage in actions that we don't want to do. Putting our focus on the what do we do can be a much more productive use of our efforts and energy. And so as we strive to build a more anti-racist community and a more allied community, this is an invitation to emphasize action rather than avoidance, and to shift our perspective. So what if instead of guarding against microaggressions, we actively seek opportunities to practice microaffirmations? What does that mean? What does that look like, sound like, feel like for this community? Microaffirmations, you can think of those as subtle acts of inclusion. The very tiny behaviors that we do on a consistent basis that allow individuals to thrive in environments where they might otherwise feel marginalized. There's small acknowledgements of another person's value, the smile, the I see you, that we offer to another that creates threads of connection. They're acts of opening doors to opportunity and shared community. They're gestures of caring and inclusion and graceful acts of listening. They lie in the practice of generosity, consistently celebrating others, giving them credit, providing comfort and support in times of distress. They have the power to create a positive impact on everyone, regardless of gender or race or background or any other identifying characteristics, but especially for those who have not been historically their beneficiaries. When we make microaffirmations a frequent, intentional practice, when we focus on finding opportunities to exercise that microaffirmation muscle, those behaviors weave together to create a holistic community where others receive the message that they are welcome, that they're visible, that they're valuable, that they're worth. These actions are relevant and meaningful in any context. For example, when those who are important to us, our partners, our children, our friends, when they speak to us, putting down our phones and giving them undivided attention becomes a microaffirmation, a way of turning towards an invitation to relationship. Two significant benefits of microaffirmations that I want to put forth for your consideration. The first is that they do reduce the likelihood of unconscious inequities happening. It can sometimes be difficult for people to catch themselves, if you want to use that terminology, behaving in a way that creates an impact that's not aligned with their intentions. But if we are actively trying to affirm others in meaningful, consistent ways, we have a good chance of blocking that behavior that does not serve us without even focusing on it. The second is that focusing on individual empowerment, the opportunity to take personal ownership for our actions and the power of our own individual contributions to our community, this has a force multiplying effect on change. If we look around at this community and we say, well, it would be really nice if we could this or that, do X, Y, or Z. Nothing necessarily happens as a result of that, either jointly or individually. There's no responsibility or accountability in wishful thinking. However, if we look to ourselves and the actions we personally can change, if we step into those actions and make a choice for our own selves deliberately about what that might be, we can change the community as a collective. Individual ownership, individual actions, individual progress somehow magically becomes community groundswell. So to be more practical about this, how can we incorporate those microaffirmations into our daily lives? There are innumerable ways, and the key to making these microaffirmations practical is to make them very, very small and very, very specific. So for example, I might say, I want to be welcoming when a person of color comes to our community. And you could say to me, wonderful, an excellent start. What does that mean? So I have to get more specific of what does that look like. And my initial thought might be, well, just look at me. I am very welcoming. If I am to be sure that I'm delivering on my goal of being welcoming, I need to be really specific. What does that mean for me? Maybe it's looking a person in the eyes and offering a friendly smile. Maybe it's saying, it's wonderful to meet you. I'm so glad you came today. It's very specific. It's very clear. It's very simple. A micro affirmation in action. And there are so many thousands of different ways that we can activate micro affirmative behaviors. And I understand that the sheer number of those behaviors can be overwhelming if we're considering practical implementation. And so to provide some clarity and specificity and simplicity, I have a simple framework for us to consider how each of us can show up as intentional and present allies. I use this framework a lot in my work, and it revolves around 3 words: receptive, reflective, and empowering. We want to think about what behaviors demonstrate those qualities of being receptive to others, reflective in our posture toward ourselves and in our learning journeys, and empowering in the way that we create conditions for others to thrive. If we're thinking about being receptive, that's going beyond accepting other people's differences and entering into a mindset of active curiosity about another human person. This is seeking to understand someone else. It's engaging in active listening. It's appreciative inquiry, asking another's opinion, bringing out a quieter voice, drawing someone into a conversation, inviting their viewpoint. Reflective actions require us to be honest with ourselves and with others. They require transparency and self-awareness, examining our own perspectives and biases, finding ways to challenge our view of the world. One of the most insidious forms of bias, by the way, is the delusion that all of us share to varying degrees that our personal experience of the world is an accurate reflection of objective reality. And so perhaps asking others for differing perspectives might be a way to push ourselves to be a little more reflective. And as a tip for that, those closest to us can sometimes be uncomfortably good at pushing us to expand our capacity for self-reflection. Maybe we lean into some opportunities that are presented there. And then finally, the empowering actions. These are about how we support and celebrate and provide space for others to thrive. They're the behaviors that create conditions for others' flourishing, uplifting those around us, celebrating them for who they are, validating their experiences, showing up for them in ways that are meaningful, making things easier for them. All of those are ways that empowering behaviors can be the micro-affirmations in our community. Receptive, reflective, empowering. Think about these 3 words as you're thinking about ways to practically practice those micro-affirmation behaviors. Each small step we take toward affirmations in our individual capacities can have a tremendous collective effect. Remember when I mentioned earlier that we've all experienced moments where we were unprepared for allyship? Athletes often practice for game day by visualizing themselves performing perfectly in the moment. And did you know this practice of visualization actually creates physical changes? The Cleveland Clinic recently did a study showing that visualizing muscles contracting can increase physical strength. Our minds are powerful tools, and we can prepare and visualize our intentional actions, working effectively to create outcomes that we desire. By being thoughtful about our own individual contributions, we can engage in this practical, action-oriented allyship within and beyond this community, expressed in the moments that matter most. And each one of us individually has the power to make a difference. So this is an invitation to embrace that individual power. By practicing microaffirmations, we can create the more inclusive and anti-racist community that we seek to build. And it starts with us individually. So let's embrace this together and commit to being more intentional and specific about what those interactions might look like. Individually, and thus together, we can draw the entire community toward progress. So when we think forward to visualize a whole bunch of days that haven't happened yet, the future that we see is a tapestry woven together by the individual threads within this community. Thank you all for listening, and I will turn it over to Reverend Lora for a reflection activity to wrap us up.
Thank you. When you're talking about a microaffirmation, you mean things like, when I go downstairs during social hour and I'm a little tired and I'm an introvert, it means actually going up to someone I don't know, right? And welcoming them.
That could be one way.
Does it also mean like sitting at the table with someone that's there for the first time and inviting them to conversation?
That could be one way.
Could it be if there are 5 of us sitting at a table and a new person is sort of circling the table, I might lean back and go, hey, come sit at my table?
That could also be one way.
Okay, so you get the idea, right? So we're gonna pass out, a couple of volunteers ready to pass out some sticky notes. And you're gonna take a moment to write down what is one action that you personally think that you can take. It could be like, I'm going to learn the newcomers' names on a Sunday morning, and then I'm going to write them down, and then I'm going to remember them when they come back the next week. And then so everyone's going to write down like one idea, and then I'm going to pull this whiteboard forward, and you're all going to put your ideas on the board, and these will be on display for everyone to sort of share and participate in. And together, that's how we're going to do it. Individual actions, individual commitments.
One singular thing that you feel comfortable doing as a start. And you can think about this framework of a behavior that's more receptive to others, more reflective, or more empowering to help guide your thoughts about that.
Okay, so when you get your piece of paper and you make your little note, just come forward whenever you're ready and put it up on here. Because why shouldn't we use giant whiteboards on Sunday morning worship? Thank you to everyone. Look at this beautiful collection of actions that we can individually take and also steal from our neighbors. So I'm going to read a couple. Ask for others' perspective. Tell someone they would love to chat sometime. Learn someone's name. Show support to anyone who seems neglected or uncomfortable. Say hello to one new person each week. Look for newcomers. Look people in the eyes. Smile and say hello. So we'll continue to build on these. So I'm going to invite you right now to just, if you're comfortable, close your own eyes. Think about the action that you are determined to take and just visualize yourself or imagine yourself. Maybe you're not a visual person. Maybe you're an auditory person, so you're going to hear yourself saying those words. Just imagine it for just a second here. And now I invite you, as you're sitting next to someone, just to whisper to them, my action is. And together we will create the beloved community that we know is possible. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, or the energy of action. And we hold each other in our hearts until we meet again. Please be seated for the postlude with our choir.